for Dr. Richardson to possibly speak with the board members about his report, and he said that he didn't see anything wrong with that. So this is my first time seeing some of these comments that is within his report. So I am wondering, is there going to be a point where we can question some of these findings?
First of all, as you noticed in the report, I made no specific accusations against anyone. So I see no reason for it to be a discussion. Second, I don't think you want to go there. Because I would say to you this reason. All I do is put the names to the charges, and what we need to focus on now, at this point in my view, is a very short window to deal with our response to SACS. Now, if we don't have a good response to SACS, they will come here, do their own investigation. They clearly will ask me, you've included a report to the board, now give me the specific information that you have. So I would say to you, all of those are actual events, none are hypothetical, and all of them have names attached to them.
Okay, but my problem is that this is now being a public document. So whether you put names to them or not, it really doesn't matter at this point. And then my other question is, you have given the board 2 days to respond to that.
I didn't set the timeline.
It's did, the state said.
Like, how long did we know? Like, when did they give us this deadline?
Like, the deadlines were established when Dr. Elkhart was here and when he issued a letter to Mr. Maddox.
But the state can't meet without, this board can't meet without the state approval.
Mr.
And let's tell the truth.
Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
The board has been preoccupied with the day-to-day regular board issues that we have to deal with. But yes, the state, Mr. Franklin, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I'm not
He's
leaving.
not gonna leave.
Because we tried to
Please
meet with
be
the mayor
quiet.
and we hadn't met because the state didn't want to do it. So we gonna sit here and say the board ain't met in 2 days. They can't meet without the state. You've taken over.
We have given ample opportunities to meet with this board. As far as our timing goes, October 1st was established for response. This board, I know we had a discussion at the last work session. We knew that we had this impending response to try to put together. That's the one reason why I've asked, and Dr. Bice had asked Dr. Richardson to expedite his findings so that we could include anything of material that might assist us in our response to advanced education.
They couldn't even meet with their attorneys.
So we're going to ask Dr. Witherspoon to work with each of you and develop a draft with which we can circulate. I think we need to be very specific about what Mr. Elkhart has asked for, and particularly meet his deadline for a response. This will be a preliminary communication with him, I'm sure.
One thing, thank you, Dr. Members. One thing I would add to the discussion is this. Governance is singularly a Board of Education responsibility. Unless the board makes a solid commitment to addressing this itself and votes on it prior to the October 1 deadline, I think SACS will consider that as less than satisfactory. So what we need to have here is the board, and Mr. Maddox, you started the discussion in a very positive way, the board to discuss what can we do to include, what can we say in our report to, we can't finish anything, but what are we saying we're prepared to do? So we can include in our response to go to SACS by October 1. Then what I had asked of Mr. Dr. Witherspoon is that he would then listen to the board's discussion, form a draft response, send it out this Thursday with your board minutes, and then when we come back on the 25th, then you can refine it, kick it around, do whatever you want to, and then hopefully officially approve it by the board, which is what it will take, a resolution approved by this board next week to send to SACS the following week.
That's my question.
Mr. Ford?
They don't talk to the superintendent about some of these. They shouldn't do that.
You know, through
The
this
plan should
whole
be
When it's board
process,
governance, Richard.
Oh,
Not
but this is
when
what I'm
it's
saying.
board
They could
governance.
not meet. They could not
clearly,
meet.
I
and I've
understand
They
stated
wrong for
this
that.
several times, to respond to something that I have nothing in front of me. That's why I sent the certified letter based on advanced ed's policy that things must be in writing. Whatever complaints have been launched against this school district. Now, I'm gonna say this, and I can only speak for myself. I'm not about to waive my rights as an elected official. I'm not about to do this to the stakeholders of this city. See, this whole process is very, very deep. And I took the time to go through this whole court document and read it and try to digest it. Where it leads to is going to be quite interesting. Micromanaging is such a broad statement, and especially when I saw the word EG in front of it, basically telling me that that's giving me an example, not saying that's what has occurred to some degree. Now, I want to say this to you, Dr. Richardson. If a board member has been trying to influence construction, that's information that you ought to turn over to the district attorney's office, because that tells me that you were not elected to really do what's in the best interest of the children in the city of Birmingham. Now, I have an issue with that. I really do. And you called off some other things, I didn't write them down, but that particular one stuck in my mind. And if you have that information, then you should most certainly give it to the district attorney's office. If the district attorney is going to look into residency and other matters, then that should be turned over to him also, because I think that is very important.
Everything's been turned over to the district attorney, except that pertains to governance, which I discussed tonight.
Okay, well,
Everything.
you gave him that about the construction?
I did.
Okay, because that's just not right. Maybe that's why we didn't change it in some cases. But, well, I just got issues with some of this, but, we'll see.
Any other board members that like to say anything? Jim?
I would like to ask how we move forward. I understand there's concerns and comments and questions that we can talk about in this report, and we can challenge who said what. Mr. Franklin. Checking. What are we willing to put at risk to deal with something that we all know, whether you like the format or you like the font, we know that we have an issue with the way that we function as a board, okay? And the issue that we have in front of us with SACS is that we are about to put an entire system at jeopardy for our actions. And I think at some point you have to ask yourself, what would we do, what can we do to truly come up with a solution that is going to require us as board members to say, we're not perfect, We have done things wrong, and we can do them better. That is the message as a board member I would like to send to this community, is that we can accept that we're not perfect, and we are going to try to come up with a solution. And if we choose to just simply ignore the report or say that the report has no credibility, then what is the risk of doing that? What are we going to gain out of that? And I would just simply say I am prepared to do whatever I can do to help try to find that resolution so that we can move forward and provide an appropriate response to SACs.
Dr. Pouncey, if I could just add to that just one thing. I think the key is this. What Sachs is saying is not you're at fault. They're saying we have reason to believe there may have been violation in governance, and I'm giving this board, this is Sachs, and as I said, I've been through this, I can tell you where they're going to go. What they're saying then is I'm giving this board a chance to demonstrate that that is not an issue, or if it has been, that we are taking corrective steps so that it won't continue to be. If you don't respond, or if the response is inadequate, as he said when he stood before the board, we will bring our own team in, conduct our own investigation, we will go back to Atlanta, we'll form our report, and they'll make a recommendation during the first week of December, which is their annual meeting, and most likely there will be some sanctions against this board. What would that mean? Let's say you're placed on probation. You still have accreditation. It's not taken at that point. Then we have to spend a whole year, and I can tell you from my experience at Auburn University, it took me every single day for a year to turn that around. And I would say you will have to commit more time and more energy after being placed on probation than you even imagine now. My recommendation is let's do the best we can to, one, acknowledge, okay, there may be some reason, but here are the steps we're taking. For instance, you're going to have all your board policies, you've already authorized that, to be changed. They're going to start to come to you next Tuesday, and specifically the chapter that deals with this issue, governance. And we're going to be looking at, you're going to have an attorney come before you and say, that's part of the contract with the School Board Association, not costing us any more money. We'll then say, here's what the governance policy means for board members and what's expected of the superintendent and all of that. So we can say in our response that not only have we had the policy amended to reflect current law and policies, but that we are now looking at that so we can clarify what our positions are. That'd be one thing. The second thing, as Mr. Maddox suggested, is that we could have training situations tailored for the board that would go forward across the next year. We won't have any of that done by October 1, but we can say that's our intention. The board needs to simply make a commitment to that. And I think if you show that you're looking at your policies, you're committed to it, you're going to take extra steps to make sure there's a good understanding, I think that would show good faith to SACS. We could avoid their investigation, and maybe you could handle that here at home rather than somebody else coming to tell you what to do.